When I spoke to you from Robin Hood, you told me a great story about Elton giving you a diamond earring.
Yes, the coolest thing I own is, so I got my ear pierced for the movie I just made.
ROCKETMAN.
Yeah, and Elton John gave me his first ever diamond earring.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
You know, I want to ask you.
I was at his house and he just went, there you go. And I just went,
crazy.
Oh my God.
That's crazy.
and I wear it in the movie as well.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
That's so cool.
Yeah, now, let's take in what he just
Yeah,
told us.
that's
It's cool, right?
His diamond earring, man.
The first one he
Elton
ever
John.
bought as well, from like 1973 or something.
wow.
It's a tiny heart.
I was curious the timing of that. Was that before you shot, and then you said you wore it in the movie?
Yeah, so if you
So
look
where
at,
is it in the film?
So I wear it with the orange costume. So when I take the hat off and I'm sat in the rehab clinic talking about my life, the heart earring is the one that Elton gave me.
And when did he give it to you? Was it prior to production?
Must have been about 8 weeks before production started. He gave it to me as a gift. He never intended I wear it in the film. I asked Julian how he felt about that, our costume designer, and he thought it was a great idea.
So I know you're live singing, but when we see it in the film, is it all from the actual set recording, or do you go into the studio, record it, and then they
No,
direct?
it's a mix. In the interest of
Wow.
full disclosure, it's a mix of things. So, for example, the things I do live are Your Song. I do Goodbye Yellow Brick Road.
Yeah.
And I do I'm Still Standing.
Those are all live.
They're live up until, so I'm Still Standing is live. I mean, I don't want to demystify Dexter's film too
No,
much.
it's so cool though.
But it's live in rehab. It's live. Your Song is totally live, and Goodbye Yellow Brick Road is live until I'm outside of Madison Square Garden. Wow. So, and the reason that is, I wanted to do as much of it live as I could, because obviously there's a great sense of authenticity to that. But for something like Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting, logistically, technically, it would be impossible.
Yeah.
So that is, I mean, we recorded Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting before, but what I was always doing is we were playing a track that I would sing with. So I'm really singing. But what you hear is from a studio, and I would try and recreate the same physical quality while singing it to give it an air of authenticity.
But the Troubadour sequence blew my mind. And
So the start of that is live.
Oh, okay. So I want to know how they achieve the float. It's like so
we actually
cool.
didn't know that was going to happen. It just happened on the day. Everyone floated off the ground. It was really weird.
But for you though, like, it is amazing watching you up in that position. It's so cool how they achieved that.
Yeah, it's great. It's sort of what I love about it is there are shots of Elton, where he used to propel his weight forward and flick his legs back.
Yeah.
And it's a lovely little nod of the head to that. But this time it happens without him realising, because the concert is so electric. That's what it's his memory. It's Elton described. It's like, he's saying, and the concert went so well, it felt like everyone floated off the ground. And in his memory, we see his memory.
One of the cool things I love about this movie, obviously, is the way Dexter shot it. But
Yeah.
you find his voice.
Right.
And as an actor, I'm wondering what's the process to finding Elton's voice, the actual speaking part of it and also the singing part of it. How do you find it?
I think, acting is about meaning what you say and listening. And as long as you are doing those two things and you're finding a place where when you speak the words, you aren't ever reciting a piece of script.
Right.
You find an authentic place for that to come from, and to come from your belly, which is where we speak from. And I think if you're doing that, you're probably going to be okay.
I love the video of you reacting at Cannes. That made me so happy, man. I hope you know how much this movie means to a lot of people, and I hope you know that the tracking shots are amazing and your performances, and you and Jamie Bell, those scenes blew my freaking mind.
How cool is it when he starts singing? That comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, that was amazing.
So cool.
It's a magical thing you guys have together. It really is.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
One of my favorite shots in the film is the pinball wizard sequence.
Yes.
And obviously you're going around in circles with a costume change in one continuous shot. Clearly, I know you're stitching things, but can you talk about how you achieved that shot and like what the spinning of it aspect was?
Yeah.
Where the changes occur? Like, was it hard to piece that together?
Yeah, it was really intricate. It was, and it was one of the last things to come together, because that whole section of the film is about trying to communicate that here's a man who's now just caught up in the machine, and how does he find himself?
Interesting.
Where does he sort of lie? That's why Pinball Wizard is. If you listen to the lyrics, it's brilliant. It's just about someone who's part of a machine. But we stuck him on a turntable and a green screen, and he's actually on a turntable, and then we track around him as well, and then go with him and track left and right as he span, and then we use the piano lid as our wipe,
Wow.
to get him through. So he'd have to perform the whole song as he went round in each costume. So because I was like, I don't know where I'm going to do those changes. I don't know where in the song I'm going to do that. And the more I discovered about shooting songs is that you've got to shoot the whole song no matter what version you want, so that you can cut in where you need to. And especially with Pinball Wizard, because it was one of the last things to be realised, that the way that it's now come together has become particularly satisfying, and I think it helps communicate in that moment that he's spinning out.
It's amazing. One of the things I love about Taron's performance, obviously, the fact that he's actually singing. But one thing you do brilliantly is you can't tell when it's live or not live. It just feels like one gigantic live performance.
Yeah, right.
But talk about the choices of when you had to go record it. Like I'm assuming Saturday had to be because logistically you have to. So
yeah.
But how do you make those decisions? Are those on the day? Do you know when you're going to go? All right, Taron, you're actually going to sing live now. We're going to capture that audio. This one's going to be your audio from your recording.
Sure. Well, some of that, Taron and I sort of like discussed every song, obviously, in detail, and I knew that, recording on the day live in situ is really complicated.
Yeah.
I'd done that when we were raising money for the film. We took Taron to Abbey Road, and I did a wide and a close, essentially, of him singing your song.
Okay.
But what happens, of course, is that Giles Martin then gets all that audio and he cuts together a version of that song, which is taking the best notes from it.
Right.
But if you let that cut dictate the physical cut, you have something really strange because the music cuts don't necessarily match the cinematic cut. So anyway, I suppose what I'm trying to say is that editing to a live performance is particularly difficult. But at the same time, you want that live performance, because when Taron sings your song on the set, there's something that absolutely happens within that moment between him and Jamie, between the song, the pianist in his ear, gives him just one note. Taron's finding it, he's building and creating the song, he's acting and spinning all these plays, and that absolutely has to happen there and then. So you kind of figure out the ways to do that. But like you say, Saturday Night's All Right for a Fight, it's got to be pre-recorded.
But it feels live.
It feels live because we
energy.
go back and we can. This is the beauty of musicals. You can go back and get back in the studio and watch what we do, watch the cut, see where you were.
Yeah.
But I'm still standing. He sings from that recovery room from that rehab down that corridor on the way out. That is all what happened there on the day. His voice is incredible, and every take is different. There's a little bit of adjusting of the music and his voice, but or cutting, his timing. But it's all happened, and that's what the strength of it is. Because with the musical, if I go and see a musical on stage, when that actor sings that song, they're in that moment. Their voice is right there in that moment, and you're connecting to that performance. That rendition of that song is there. So I wanted to bring that into the films. So whenever we could, he sang live. Ben in the Jets on stage, he's singing live right in the beginning, but then it segues into a recording. I Want Love, he's absolutely, those guys sung it live.
Troubadour stuff, right?
Troubadour,
he's
1, 2, 3, 4, that's there, he's there, that's him, singing that moment. And it's a testament to the sound recordist, John Hayes, and everything that they did on the day to capture as much of those performances live in the moment as they did.
Thank you for making this R-rated. It gives it obviously a very grounded reality. I'm curious, if you take out the language, can you still go 13 with the drug sequences? Like, does the MPA have a problem? Like, are they strange about the cocaine stuff? Like, is that something that factors into the R rating?
I think so.
I think so too.
I've not dived too deeply into that, because I just wanted to make the film that I wanted to make, and then present that and go, look, I don't know what the rating is.
It needs to be R, though.
But look, it needs to be dark. It needs to certainly go to some low places so you can have the highs. 100%. And Elton's life is not an R-rated experience, not a PG experience.
No.
I don't think it was. He's very candid about that, and so it's got to touch rock bottom. And if I submit that film and they say it's R, I mean, everyone said this, it's an R, it's going to be R, and I created a film that I thought was balanced enough. I want it to have broad appeal. I think there's a lot of really positive and good stuff that can be drawn from his life and his ability to survive, and I love that about it. But I can't decide the rating. All I can do is make the film, and if they go, yeah, it's that, and I know, okay. But yeah, I think the language, if you drew that back, but there's sometimes when it has to have that language. When he says, write the fucking lyrics, Bernie, let me take care of it. It needs that. And I tried taking those things out just to see, and it didn't work.
No, you need it.
Yeah, because Taron, Richard, Bryce,
Jamie,
they're giving an R-rated performance, and what I mean by that is that they are giving of themselves in a way that is right on that edge. It's on that edge, you know. And although Bryce doesn't swear per se or use language, she's on that edge because that character that she's creating is R-rated in its way. If you know what I mean, it's not just sort of like, oh, and then she could be a bit mean. She's gnarly. She's complex, and so. That's for me what it is. It's beyond the language and the drugs and the sexual content, just how they approached it each day.
One of my favorite shots in the film, it's probably a strange shot to bring up because I think it's brilliant, but during the intimate scene with Richard and Taron, you choose the camera to go up towards this light, and then you leave them in the bottom left of the corner of the screen. And I found myself conflicted viewer-wise. I'm like, do I look there? Yeah. Is it okay that I look down there? Am I not allowed to? Meaning like it's a private moment, and we're kind of. So I'm curious as a filmmaker, the choice of that shot. I thought it was awesome, but it was one of those things where I kind of was like this. Do you want that?
Yeah, I do, because there's it's kind of very literal in one way. You know how I approach it. I was like, to George Richmond, I was like, when this moment happens, when these two guys are in this very intimate position in this clinch, the sun has got to rise, and the sun is rising on his moment. It is, and it's a very literal interpretation of it. But if we pull away and we look at that, and it is a little bit of cutting away from it, and it is their moment. We get what's going on.
Yeah.
We understand, and it's got to be between
private.
them. Exactly. It's got to be, because we come back and he's there and he's smiling, and so we know what it is, and it's like we got to have something, because I didn't want it to be as we'd say, just a quickie in a motel room, which is what it could fall into very easily. It's got to be something that is life-changing for Elton in that particular moment. It's his first real intimacy with another person, and we've got to be respectful of that. So if it was just like a bit of a fumble and a thing, then maybe you could, get what I mean? It'd be like, okay, we get what's going on. But here,
I loved it.
It's got to be.
It's like we were flies on the wall, and we were like, "Are we supposed to be in here?" This is kind of. Thank you so much for talking to me. You really
Likewise, thank you.
Your character, I mean, if I could use these words, is a bit manipulative, obviously, and there's an evil sense to kind of what he's doing at times. But you play it in a very interestingly charming way. So, is there an art to finding that tone?
I don't know. It's very kind of you to say. I'm not sure. I just tried to work out who he was and why Elton fell for him and how they fell in love, and that was my focus rather than kind of externally trying to do something.
Yeah. I think Dexter's a brilliant director, and I think the way he chooses the way he shoots things is amazing. I won't go into spoiler details, but there's a great sequence with you and Elton, and it's an intimate moment, and the way the camera shoots it is brilliant. It's almost like it lifts up, and you're on the left corner of the screen. As actors in that moment, what are you told? Do you know the camera is doing that? And do you know that's where he's going to go up and then cut it?
No, you don't really know. You're you're in the scene, and sometimes as an actor you're aware of what the cameras are doing. But you shoot these things lots of different ways, from lots of different angles, lots of different times. So you never really know what the edit's going to be. You kind of have to just put your trust in the editor and to Dexter to be able to tell the story the best way that they want to.
Is there a shot you've done in your career that blew you away, the way it finalized on screen? Like you had no idea the camera had done that movement?
Let's think. There's a really cool shot. I think there's a shot in Game of Thrones where I'm galloping on a white horse across a snowy field in a big V formation with all these men, and I have this amazing horse, and I pull right up at the camera and kind of rein up, and it's just like the ultra hero shot, and you're like, cool. Yeah, this is cool.
And you didn't know it looked like that.
I didn't know it was going to look like that. No, you're like,
that's
whoa, that's cool.
I know. As you sit here today, you're probably getting a zillion Game of Thrones questions, but I just kind of want to know after Red Wedding, do you watch it live? And do you, at this moment, do you know what happens?
No, I don't.
I'm not going to ask you what happens, but they don't even tell you.
I don't let them tell me.
So are you going to watch it live tonight at 2 a.m?
I can't watch it live, no, because we're very busy at the moment. But I am going to tune into it and keep my fingers in my ears all day tomorrow so that I don't get all the spoilers.
Are you loving this season?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, one thing I love about this movie, obviously, like I mentioned, is the filmmaking, but also that relationship that you have with Elton and Taron. It's an amazing thing. Off camera, when the camera cuts, do you ever stay in character like throughout breaks? Like was Taron still Elton throughout the day, or can you kind of go back to Richard and then pop back in?
I mean, I'm not really a method actor. I'm not a method at all, so I don't kind of work that way. But I mean, there's hiatus you do. You know, if we're having like an argument scene, then you kind of put yourself on pause. You don't kind of crack a bunch of jokes after your serious scene and then jump back into to being serious again. So I think there's a kind of, you put yourself on hold and kind of try and keep your focus between setups and takes.
Going into the project, I'm wondering, did your favorite Elton John song change after filming it? Like, is there a song that means more to you now after being in the film?
Yeah, there's a bunch of songs I understand more.
Like
I understand definitely. Like your song, I kind of see in a different way from that great scene between Bernie and Elton in the film. I understand it. I listen to it differently. But Rocketman was a song that I heard differently the first time. I met Dexter the first time I met him to talk about doing the film. He played me Taron singing Rocketman. And I heard it for the first time again and was like, yeah, I have to be part of this.
When you're playing Elton John's mom in a film, and Elton John's the executive producer of the film, can you go to him and say, did this moment happen like this? Do you have those conversations? Can you say, where were you emotionally? Did she say it just like this? Was it this hurtful? What are your conversations like?
I think that I mean, absolutely. There was definitely like a bat phone, to Elton, but it was through Taron, and I think that I mean, I could have talked to Elton and all that kind of stuff, but it was really helpful for me to actually talk to people who were able to be a little bit more objective.
Interesting.
It's not that I wouldn't trust what someone has to say about their own parent, but also, he doesn't want to say bad things about his parent. And so the more that I talked with people who knew Sheila, who know Elton, who observed the dynamic between the two of them and how it evolved over the decades, that was really, really helpful to me. And then Taron had access not only to Elton, but to all of his journals and his autobiography, and he was the only one who had read all of that. And so, there were a lot of insights and stories that I was able to glean from that as well. Yeah.
And as an actress, you're across from multiple different Eltons at different ages. Is that an interesting thing for you to play a through line for one character?
Yeah.
Was that weird for you to like kind of be across three different people?
Yeah. I mean, I start. The story starts with the song "The Bitch Is Back."
Yeah.
And I'm the bitch. and it's when Elton John is little Reggie Dwight, and he's like 8 years old, and it then goes from there, and we see Reggie when he's a young teenager, and then by the time he's in his late teens, early 20s, it's Taron. It was kind of incredible to get to. I'm 38, and to get to play someone from basically like my early 20s to 70 in one scene. That was really fun.
That's insane. Like, it was amazing to watch like the transformation of everybody. And one of the things I love about this movie is like obviously the songs are incredible. I'm curious, prior to this film, an Elton John song that meant a lot to you, but after filming, did it change?
Oh, yes. Because I knew his music, and I loved his music, but I didn't know much about him.
Right.
I didn't know about his relationship between him and Bernie.
Oh, my God.
And that
Jamie's so
dynamic.
good,
Oh
right?
my
How good
gosh.
is Jamie Bell in this movie,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
Like insane,
It's like you're seeing an angel, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I get like choked up thinking about it.
Was there a song that meant more to you?
Bernie's actually like that.
Yeah.
Like Bernie is how Jamie is in the movie.
Cool.
I lost track because I just got emotional about Jamie.
No, it's okay. But just a song that meant more to you after filming.
Oh yes, okay. I mean, I'm still standing.
Why?
I'm still standing. Definitely. I mean, before filming, my daughter used to sing that song all the time because it was in the movie Sing.
Yeah.
I found out only recently that it was Taron who sung that song. I didn't know that. Like, while we were doing it.
Oh, you're right. You blew my mind. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it was Taron who sang it in Sing, which is crazy. I know.
It's like Inception.
Yes.
There's a lot of layers happening here.
And so my daughter used to sing that, and then of course to know his story and to know that that song represented him really overcoming his demons and very extreme demons.